Namaste and welcome to Bhakti Yoga Conference 2026, Sacred Community, Walking the Path of Love Together. I'm Happy Jack, the founder of Happy Jack Yoga, and our host for today. And this is our second annual gathering of the Bhakti Yoga Conference, bringing together over 40 beautiful souls, from scholars to musicians to spiritual leaders, and just really beautiful souls around the world. We opened the conference at Harvard Divinity School a couple of weeks ago. We'll have our conclusion at Oxford Center for Hindu Studies. And together we get to explore really how devotion and spiritual community can support us in this path of Bhakti Yoga. As of now, we have well over 6,000 beautiful souls who have registered, including Harvard students, practitioners of Bhakti Yoga, yoga teachers, and sincere spiritual seekers from around the globe. This is meant to be a space for spiritual friendship, for shared inquiry, and for heartfelt conversation. It's definitely what we're in for today. If you'd like, please leave a message in the chat. Let us know where you're calling in from. And thank you for being a part of this global Sangha. It's now an honor, truly an honor, to bring to the stage a dear friend, a mentor. Please welcome to the stage Rukmini Walker. Such an honor. I will read a little bio, and then before we officially open up the space. So Rukmini is a teacher and a community leader focused on women's spiritual empowerment and interfaith dialogue. Over the years, she has developed a body of work that supports people from diverse backgrounds in exploring spiritual life in a meaningful and accessible way. As the founder of the Urban Devi Collective, Rukmini has created a platform that brings together seekers from many walks of life. Connected with the Bhakti Center in New York, she serves on the board of directors and contributes to the center's ongoing mission of spiritual education and community building. And there's so much more that we could say. We had so much about Rukmini, but we tightened it up to a couple of sentences. But we're so honored. Friends, if you are ready to welcome Rukmini to the virtual stage, throw your arms in the air and loudly chant Haribol. And if you just hit the unmute button there, Rukmini, and we'll get you on. Welcome to Bhakti Yoga Conference.
Haribol.
Such an honor to have you here with us. You know, you have been such a guide, an example, a light in my life. You're just such a positive, uplifting presence. You know, you've answered so many questions for me over the past years. You've really spent considerable time with me, you know, guiding me and helping me find clarity on some of the biggest questions of life. And it's an honor to have you back at Bhakti Yoga Conference.
Thank you so much, Jack. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you.
Yes. And so we decided, before we get into the first question, which is, you know, the origin question, we thought, would you open with some prayers to set the mood?
Yes, I love to do that. So first, let me say just a little prayer of gratitude to my teachers. And then I'll share another prayer from the child saint, Prahlad Maharaj. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Yananjana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So that one was in Sanskrit, but now, that one was in English, and now I want to share one. That one was in Sanskrit. Now I want to share one in English. This is from the little boy saint Prahlad Maharaj. He says, and I think this is really a prayer for building community, because it's sort of a prayer for everyone. So he says, may the entire universe be blessed with peace and good hope. May everyone driven by envy and enmity be pacified and reconciled. May all living beings develop abiding concern for the welfare of others. May our own hearts and minds be filled with purity and serenity. And may all these blessings flow naturally from this supreme benediction. May our attention become spontaneously absorbed in the rapture of pure love unto the transcendent Lord. Thank you so much. Beautiful to invoke the presence of the little boy, Saint Prahlad Maharaj.
It's so beautiful and such important words. I wish that you could whisper lovingly those words into the ears of so many world leaders right now. And but we all feel that, and we're just honored to have you with us. I know you have something prepared to share with us from the heart. And before we go there, could you just share a little bit about your journey to Bhakti Yoga? We have new seekers, new yogis here. You know, this has been over half a century journey for you, but give us a taste. What inspired, and how did you end up on Bhakti Yoga?
Thank you. It's interesting. I looked in the chat and there's a few people who've joined from San Francisco. So I actually first met devotees of Krishna in San Francisco. And I was only 16 years old. And my son Gauravani kind of winces at that when he thinks of his youngest child. He has three kids, and his youngest one is 16. But yeah, I was 16, and I was really searching. I was always searching. I was always looking for answers. And I kind of felt like I was dropped from another planet. I couldn't figure out what was going on in the world and what motivated people. So I was always looking for something deeper. And when I met the devotees in San Francisco, it was such a beautiful experience, a real soul to soul experience. Yeah. So then I went with there was a group of devotees, a group of six adults and one baby, who were on their way to London to open a temple in London, which is where it's a great history, which is where they met George Harrison and the Beatles. But I went with them to Montreal. They were going to Montreal, where Prabhupada was resident for a few months, and they were going to get his blessings. So I went with them, and I met Srila Prabhupada there. And that initial experience of that soul to soul experience was really, deepened and validated and clarified in such deep ways when I met my guru, Srila Prabhupada. So, yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a beginning story.
Amazing. And there's, of course, so much more to the story, but that gives us a sense of like, just I love that you were kind of this idea. Maybe some of us can relate. Like we're born in a different planet, like not just seeing the world differently, having
What's
different.
going on here?
Some of us are feeling that right now. And we could spend easily an hour just on your journey and soak up so much nectar from that. But you have an important topic:
Yeah.
uplifting women's voices. Right. This
Yeah.
this is part of your mission at Urban Devi.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll turn it over to you, kind of share what's on your heart, and then we'll get into some more dialogue.
Yeah, thank you. One thing I did want to say about Srila Prabhupada, it's very interesting because I had that soul to soul experience when I first came into the temple in San Francisco from both the men and the women. I felt like for the first time in my life, I wasn't being objectified as a woman. I was really, it was a beautiful experience. And then, as I said, meeting Srila Prabhupada just so much validated that. But I wanted to share something he said. He said once that his mission had actually become successful because he included and engaged women equally to the men. And that was a revolutionary idea at the time. And it was a departure from the norm in India. And he was really severely criticized for that by his godbrothers and other people back in India. So that was something interesting I thought to share. But yeah, I was thinking, once I attended this conference, it was a women's peace conference, and this woman spoke who was a high court judge from India, and she shared a reflection that was really a powerful image for me. She talked about a traditional Indian joint family home where several brothers and their wives would be living together with their parents and their children. And traditionally, that large kind of home would have a courtyard in the center where all the cooking, the family meals, family meetings would be held. And there would traditionally be a terrace veranda facing out, facing the outside world. So the women would usually be inside in the courtyard, cooking, dealing with family issues, caring for each other, for the children, caring for the elders, healing the sick members of the family with herbal medicines, probably handed down from their grandmothers. And the men would tend to be outside on the veranda, facing out, facing the world, reading the newspapers, speaking about politics or the latest advances, maybe in science or technology. So, of course, today many women are facing out into the world, making important breakthroughs in science, medicine, technology. But the way she was explaining this was that women were traditionally holders of community, and I was really moved by that image. So so I wanted to speak a bit about this urban Devi gathering that we hold once a month. It began in person at Bhakti Center in New York City, and then during COVID, it moved to an online gathering. And now it's become an international gathering of women of all ages and backgrounds. And so I really wanted to invite the women who are joining us on this podcast to join us. If you go to my website, Jack, I think you were going to post that, rukminiwalker.com, you can click on a link to join us. And if you can't make it live, each session is recorded, and you can always listen to the recording later. And I have to apologize to any guys who are online. It's only for the women. So sorry, guys.
And just so you know, I just put the link in the chat. We'll share it under the replay as well for those to stay connected. And I just got to say, just quickly, I mean, it's so true. I think about the women in my life, my mom, all of the women, and there's just like a different quality and softness and compassion and love that is so needed. And so it's for sure what holds community together, what uplifts and nurtures, and we wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for. So
yeah, the mom is the first guru, right? And Jack, I think it was your mom who first suggested to you that you do yoga, wasn't it?
it was,
I
yeah.
think you told me that.
That's exactly right.
So my guru, Srila Prabhupada, used to sometimes talk about whenever there's a gathering on spiritual topics, there will always be more women present, often more than the men. And of course, we see this in yoga studios, often in churches, temples, and maybe even today. I'm looking at the little gallery.
Today, yep.
Maybe even today, there's more women tuning into this podcast than men. Yeah, but often it's the men who are speaking or leading, and I sometimes wonder, where are the voices of the women? So that's why I began this Urban Devi community. It's a community, sharing our time together and hearing from each other on different topics of interest, especially for women on the spiritual path or the path of bhakti. And the women who lead these discussions are longtime practitioners of bhakti. They're professional women, psychiatrists, healers, psychologists, writers, poets, professors, family therapists, advanced yoga instructors, diplomats, etc., on and on. So each month, one of them will present her thoughts, delving deeper into topics of interest to women in the 21st century. And then we try to share, then we break out in little groups and we share our thoughts. So I really feel like the gifts that we have, each of us, are given by God, and they're meant to be used for God to uplift the world, whether it's within our family or in our community or the outside world. And I strongly believe, without stereotyped ideas of what a woman can do or should do, I think that's really important also. Creative energy is given by God. It's meant to benefit ourselves and others. And if it's not used like that, it can turn into destructive energy and destructive to ourselves, to others, and to the world. But I also wanted to make the point that, often we see that men who are spiritually advanced in all cultures, and Jack, you're an example of this, also show a highly developed feminine sense of compassion, kindness, care. Look at history. There's hello, Manjuali, my dear. So good to see you. Thank you for tuning in, my dear, dear, dear sister. Yeah, so it's so funny. I noticed Manjuali, and I was just about to mention Jesus Christ. Yes, compassion, kindness, care, right? Jesus Christ, St. Francis, Sri Chaitanya. And it's even said that Muhammad himself wouldn't even kill a harmless insect. But in every culture, I think people of all genders find more solace and shelter in the merciful and compassionate feminine side of divinity. In Christianity, Mother Mary; in Tibetan Buddhism, the goddess of mercy, Tara; the Sufi poet Rabia; and Sri Radha, the divine feminine goddess of the Bhakti Yoga tradition. So a little bit about Sri Radha. She is the joyful pleasure energy of Sri Krishna. And even the path of Bhakti itself, Bhakti Devi, I love this. Bhakti Devi is herself a goddess, expanded from Sri Radha. And we are all her expansions. I actually have a picture of her here. I don't know if it's going to show. Here's a picture of...
It doesn't quite show, but...
It doesn't quite show. It's a picture of Bhakti Devi that I found. Yeah.
Amazing.
So anyway, we're all her expansions, and our very nature, as is explained in the Bhakti Yoga tradition, is meant to give pleasure to our source, the divine couple, Shri Radha and Krishna. So a little bit about Bhakti Yoga. What is Bhakti Yoga anyway? Yoga means to connect, to join together, and Bhakti is the path for connecting through love in action. And Bhakti is described as an offering of the heart, an opening of the heart. It's described as upasana, or meditation, that's been saturated with priti, or love. And to offer our hearts in loving service to our source, to the Supreme, who source of us all, who made us all. And on the path of Bhakti, we call him Krishna or Govinda. So to be more specific, in Bhakti, we worship this original supreme masculine, Sri Krishna, in loving consort with his most beloved Sri Radha, the original divine feminine persona or energy. And in Bhakti, we understand that our very nature, our intrinsic nature, is actually feminine. So I really love this point about the Bhakti tradition, that whether we're externally male or female in our current bodies, our internal spirit, or jiva soul as it's called, has a feminine nature. And in our Bhakti practice, we revere the Hare Krishna mantra. A mantra is a combination of potent, sacred sound vibrations that help us to transform and go beyond the stages of our senses, our minds, our intelligence, and access our own, intrinsic spiritual self. So this beautiful, sweet Hare Krishna mantra, and this is important, speaking about the divine feminine, I think, this Hare Krishna mantra is actually a combination of names of the divine masculine, Sri Krishna, along with his beloved Sri Radha, the divine feminine. So this mantra in Sanskrit is called a Jugala mantra, or a loving reciprocal calling out to the divine couple, both in union and in separation. So if I can unpack that a little bit, this mantra incorporates 4 pairs of names together in union. So Hare means Sri Radha. So Hare Krishna. Then 2 pairs of names where Radha and Krishna are separated. Krishna, Krishna, Hare, Hare. Then 2 pairs of names in union once again. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama is a name for Krishna that means the enjoyer of Radha. And then 2 pairs in separation once more. Rama, Rama, Hare, Hare. So this is a very, very beautiful thing, I think, to explain and unpack, because it's said that the river of love flows more swiftly when there are 2 strong banks, right? The bank of union and the bank of separation. And that helps the river of love to flow beautifully and strongly. So back to this topic of community. This is the topic for your Harvard Bhakti Yoga Conference. And I think that in order to build community, it's important that we be, first of all, breathing in to nourish ourselves, and then breathing out to help others and to nourish community. And when we take shelter of divinity in some way each day, ideally as we begin our day, before we just go and charge out to give and serve the world with whatever gifts we have, this breathing in, breathing in God or Radha Krishna can bless us, empower us, and fortify us. And then breathing out, we can live in the world to help build that beloved community. So I think this is a really important point. And yeah. And in our Bhakti theology, in our Bhakti tradition, at the very center and root of all existence is this loving relationship between Radha and Krishna. I find that so beautiful. And so, yeah, I was thinking, well, what are they doing there together, Radha and Krishna, in that spiritual realm? They are engaged in a loving cosmic circle dance called the Rasa dance. And each of us is being invited to join them in that sacred dance of love. And remembering, again, this theme of this year's conference being community, we could consider this rasa circle dance as a metaphor for building, inviting, welcoming the community of all living beings. I think that's a beautiful metaphor and a beautiful image. So there's a story from the Jewish tradition that once a rabbi asked his students, how can we determine the hour of dawn when the night ends and the day begins? So one of the rabbi's students suggested, maybe from a distance you can distinguish between a dog and a sheep. And the rabbi said, no. And then another student ventured, well, is it when we can distinguish between a fig tree and a grapevine? No, said the rabbi. Please tell us the answer then, said the students. And the wise rabbi said, it is when you can look into the face of another human being and you have enough light in you to recognize your brother or your sister. Until then, it is night and darkness is still with us. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, yeah?
So beautiful.
It's beautiful, right? So I just reflecting back on my teacher, Srila Prabhupada, I really saw this light, this wisdom in him. Why did he even leave India and to share this knowledge at the advanced age of 70? He had no money, no resources, no institutional support. Why did he come? Unless he was seeing the faces and feeling compassion for those of us who are suffering on the other side of the world, and then going all over the world. So he saw no difference between people of different nations, races, genders, religions, or communities. And his only aspiration was to share this beautiful, transformative knowledge of bhakti. So he shared these beautiful names of Radha and Krishna all over the world, in Africa, in Russia, he went to Tehran. He went all through Europe. He went through the Americas and Asia. And in exchange, what did he ask from us? He just asked that if we were touched by this message, to imbibe it ourselves and to share it with others with sincerity. And so that leads me to a little story that once I asked Srila Prabhupada, because he kept talking about sincerity. It seemed as though that was all I was hearing. He would say, just become sincere. Just try to become sincere. And finally I asked him, this was in Boston when I was a pretty new devotee, and I said, but Srila Prabhupada, how do we become sincere? And it was so charming. He looked at me really intently, and then he just shot back. He said, how do you become a thief? And I was so shocked. And I said, well, you would practice stealing. You would learn to talk the way they talk and act the way the best thieves act and go where they go and learn from them and practice. So his eyes were sparkling. He said, yes, so you must practice being sincere, being authentic, and you will become sincere. So I think that's a precious story to share. Yes, it's a great lesson, Bhakti is not meant to be theoretical or dwell in the head space. Bhakti, or love in action, must sink down to the heart space, beyond mindfulness, really, to reach into heartfulness. Yeah. And I always remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speaking about building the beloved community. What a beautiful term that is, the beloved community. And I think this inclusive idea of a beloved community should go well beyond, well-intentioned documents like the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, right? It needs to include the earth, the trees, the animals, and every species of life. And Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita. He says that someone who's wise sees the spiritual essence within every living being, no matter their species, their race, or their gender. So, I really think this way of seeing and thinking is a dynamic way forward to truly building beloved community in this, look at this world today, this most highly conflicted world that we're living in today. And Dr. Martin Luther King's wife, Coretta Scott King, she said that the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. Yeah. So just closing my thoughts, I wanted to share 4 insights on community building that were expressed by my late, very dear godbrother, Bhaktitirtha Swami. So he said, first of all, to remember that the success of my life depends on the quality of my interactions with others. And number 2, to reflect on the person I love the most and aspire to treat other people, everyone, other animals of the earth, right, with that same quality of love. And number 3, to reflect on the person I love the most and to aspire, number 3, in any conflict, to first see my fault first and then look for a chance to grow and seek some kind of synergy. And number 4, to remember that the people in my life right now may be the ones who are with me at the important time of my death. And this is also very important. According to the Bhakti path, whatever we practice in our lives will be tested and is most likely what we'll remember at the end of our lives. So, So we hope and pray to remember God, right? Radha and Krishna at the end of life, calling out their beautiful, sweet names in love. And so I just wanted to share another couple of sweet, beautiful prayers to Radha and Krishna. These are by 2 Goswamis of the 16th century, who also had their feminine, divine feminine form in their spiritual nature in eternity. So the first one is from Srila Rupa Goswami. He says, O Master of Radha, I am yours. O beloved of Lord Krishna, I am yours. I offer to both of you my thoughts, words, and deeds. You too are the goal of my life. O Shri Shri Radha and Krishna, you are like 2 great oceans of mercy. Please be merciful to me. I take shelter of you. I surrender to you. Although, and I find this so touching, he says, and although I forget you every day, please engage me in your loving service. And so that's a prayer from Srila Rupa Goswami. So I hope these thoughts about community building have, from this beautiful Bhakti Yoga perspective, I hope this will be helpful to everyone listening. Thank you so much for this opportunity, dear Jack.
Thank you, Rukmini. That was such a beautiful offering and gift. And just like, thank you for really being so intentional of taking, these important teachings from the Shastra, from your work with Urban Devi, and really weaving them into this theme of community, like very intentionally, very sincerely. I've got a few questions prepared, and then, we definitely want to open up to audience Q&A as well. So we just got a taste of your journey, but we're talking over 5 decades, half a century that you've been on this path of bhakti. Obviously, you're a woman, you're a leader. It's very natural, perhaps, to get into feminine. But how has your relationship with the feminine in devotion? How has it evolved over time?
Yeah, so thank you for the beautiful question. I have to say, from the very beginning, when I first met practitioners on the path of Bhakti Yoga and Srila Prabhupada himself, I was always so intrigued by this idea that whether we're male or female in our current bodies, our intrinsic nature and our spiritual identity is feminine in relationship to God or Krishna. And just the idea that the path itself, Bhakti Yoga, is herself a goddess. She is an expansion of the divine feminine divinity, Sri Radha, who personifies loving devotion and compassion. So, I was thinking that once Srila Prabhupada said something very beautiful. He said, if you have a prayer, you should place it, where's my right hand? You should place it in the blessing hand of Sri Radha. And he said that even if you're most unqualified, she will plead your case and recommend you to her Krishna. Isn't that beautiful? I think that's just so beautiful. And so I feel like in Bhakti, we also need to represent this compassionate mood, which is, I think, a very feminine concept. And it's interesting, when we think about yoga, other types of yoga are really sort of achievement-based, ascending processes, but bhakti is a descending process. It's a path of grace. Of course, I also need to act in a way to receive that grace. So it's a reciprocation of love. But I think that feminine ideal is so present in compassion, in community building, in bhakti. So to me, that's always been important. Yeah.
It's beautiful. I love how you also spoke about this idea of all of our souls, right? We're an eternal, pure spirit soul. We know that from bhakti, but just this idea that we're actually all feminine, right? There's like the divinity, Krishna is masculine, but we all have this feminine quality. How does that shift the way that we understand our identity or, gender, the way that we interact in the world? How can we, I guess, maybe practically engage with that?
Yeah. I think it's accentuating that feminine nature. It's a reciprocation. It's a reciprocal relationship. It's a loving exchange. It's not, again, about, sort of storming the gates of heaven with all of my great knowledge, with my renunciation, with my, on and on and on, right? It's about receiving that grace and acting in a way that I can receive that grace. It's like there's this beautiful word in Sanskrit, Anjali, when you put your two hands together like that.
Yeah.
That's considered the highest form of prayer. So this reciprocation of putting my hands together in my Anjali and accepting the grace and offering my love. It's a give and it's a take, right? It's a breathing in and it's a breathing out. Yeah.
Beautiful. Let's bring it to the urban Devi. I mean, it's just such a beautiful mission and offering that's been created. So, as you said, most of the yogis here are women, as to be expected. And so, for women who feel that they have something to offer, but maybe they hesitate. And I, by the way, I see some powerful women leaders in here, and some may feel that that hesitation to speak or to lead. What would you say to them?
I would say that as women, we share a different perspective. You don't want to stereotype things because, as I said, there are often men who are very developed in these feminine, compassionate qualities, but very often women share a different perspective. It's often a gentler, more compassionate voice. And I think it's really important to notice that when those voices of the women are stifled or silenced, I really strongly feel that we we're impoverishing ourselves and our communities and the future generations. That's the result of silencing the voice of the women. And women are the protectors of the children, also the wives, the mothers, the daughters, and when the voices of women are silenced, then it also opens the door for children to be abused, for the earth to be abused, and yeah, so it's a very, very important thing to uplift the voices of the women.
It's so important, so critical. And
Yeah.
so if someone, at this moment happens to feel disconnected or lonely or kind of outside of community, what
Mhm.
would you say? What is the first step to get back into this bhakti circle of love?
I think that the best answer for that is radical noticing. Radical noticing. Think of that. Sometimes you walk into a room, you might walk into a temple, you might walk into some gathering community space, and just notice that someone's isolating. And everyone needs to feel seen and heard. And if we notice that someone's isolating, could be a woman, could be a man, but to be able to just empower your own voice with radical noticing and feel the urgency to go up to that person and say, "What's on your heart? What's on your heart? Is there anything you'd like to talk about?" And sometimes a person like that might have just been wishing that someone would reach out, you know?
Yeah.
And I have to say also, sometimes a possible suicide can be averted in that way. So this radical noticing, really reaching out, gives other people the permission to do the same. Maybe we feel shy. Maybe when I'm at my temple, I'm just with my own little clique of good friends that I meet every week, or wherever I go, not necessarily a temple. But yeah, reaching out, I feel like it gives a domino effect in community. Radical noticing, it gives other people permission to do the same. What's on your heart?
Wow.
Anything you'd like to share? Yeah.
Such a beautiful practice, and that's something very practical that each of us can do. A grocery store clerk, wherever we have an elevator, riding a tuk-tuk in India with my friend Rukmini, wherever it is, just I love that question. What's on your heart? And it's just kind of disarms and creates a beautiful connection.
Yeah.
Something else that's kind of that I loved about what you shared is this idea of sincerity. This story with Prabhupada saying, practice sincerity and you will become sincere.
Mm.
And some of us might be like, okay, love that. How do we actually practice sincerity in a world that's like rewarding performance, results, achievement? Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's really true that in each of our hearts, we're all looking for authenticity. That's what really touches our hearts: authenticity in our relationships, beyond the masks, beyond the pretense, beyond the posturing. And it's just so refreshing when someone is simple, sincere. Simplicity is also partners with sincerity. Being simple, sincere, and just being without any ulterior motive, just and that sincerity and simplicity, it just gives us the chance to really take a deep breath and honor the wonders of the world. If my life is not so complex and burdened with so much stuff and so many pretenses, really, you know? And I think saints are like this. The saints of all traditions are like this, childlike and with a simple sincerity. Think of people that you think of as being really saintly. They're just childlike. They have a childlike sense of humor, you know. And you know what it brought up for me is this idea of the child in the story of the Emperor's New Clothes. The all the sophisticated adults, they're so afraid to tell the truth, right? And only the simple child had the power to do that. So I think sincerity reverberates across boundaries and it opens hearts. So many
It's,
more stories to share about that.
it does. It's your sincerity is opening hearts right now. Let's look to the future for a moment here.
Okay.
So what is coming back to the importance of women leaders, what is the role of women in shaping the future of Bhakti yoga communities globally?
Yeah. I think it's important to recognize that women have a different perspective. It's often a gentler, more compassionate voice, and they're the holders of community. Women are the holders of community. They need to be honored and heard and seen and cherished. So that's what's very important. Those voices that have been silenced need to be uplifted. And I think we're all looking right now in the world for a more compassionate, gentler world. And maybe that will come from the voices of the women.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. And I personally pray that, yeah, that your prayers manifest. So let us collectively keep doing the practice. But let's talk about that for a second. Practice. So you shared something really beautiful. This idea of that the quality of our life is really directly proportionate, essentially, to the quality of our relationships. And what is one practice that we can begin today to really begin to start to deepen that love?
Mm. I would say that try to become an essence seeker. Try to go to the essence. Try to see and honor your own best self and the best self in everyone you meet. And every human endeavor, every human exchange, it's either a gift of love or it's a cry for help. So whether it's an important person that you meet at somewhere like the United Nations or a homeless person on the street, right? Just to cultivate this art of deep listening and really pray to see the same spirit, soul essence that there in the heart of every living being, including the animals, and treat everyone as sacred and beloved to the one God who made us all. I think, yeah. And I think it's also important to say that love is the most revolutionary and radical force in the world. It compels us, it challenges us to care for the world as a living body, and we are a part of that living body. And also, if I could add one other thing, I would say study and try to imbibe the words of the saints of all traditions, and try to walk in their footsteps because I feel like, yeah, I just want to be swimming in that deep river of the saints and the mystics of all the traditions of the world. I don't want to be on the surface, you know, having breaking news break my heart every day, every moment, every time I click on my phone. No, I want to be swimming in that deep river of the mystics of all the traditions. Hear what they have to say to me, try to remember and repeat and share their words. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for that reminder to seek the wisdom and relish the beauty from all traditions. This is something you do so beautifully, right? Yeah, you're very involved with interfaith dialogue, and bringing together people like Dr. Francis Clooney, who's been a part of the conference in the past, and just like beautiful souls, beautiful voices from different traditions together in harmony. And
Yeah, I think when I use the word bhakti, I have to be careful to let you all know that I don't see that as a sectarian concept, but bhakti is the essence. Bhakti is the love essence that's there at the center of every spiritual tradition. So we have to seek that, be an essence seeker, find that essence, and go beyond the differences of stand up, sit down, bow down. One of our great teachers, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, has a beautiful song where he talks about why do you continue to hate people who worship in a different way from the way you worship, so I think that throws down the gauntlet. Why do we continue to hate? Even the differences between me and other people in my own community. Why do you continue to hate and only see and highlight the differences? We're all seeking love. Every living being is seeking light, right? Even the plant. Shh. I'm
Yeah.
thinking of Manjuali, who's a gardener. She's got her little plants, and the plants are all seeking light. Maybe, oh, you know who else is a gardener here is my sister, Susan, Nartaki Radha. Maybe more of you are gardeners. But yeah, a living thing seeks the light. So we have to be, if we don't want to be dead, right? Do you want to be dead? Actually, there's a beautiful quote from Rumi, or I think it's from Rumi, where he says, on the day that death finds you, make sure that he finds you alive, that you're not already dead on that day. So, yeah, living things seek the light, seek love, seek compassion. So let's be truly alive before that moment of our death, that ultimate moment of our death. Let's be alive.
Yes. Such words of wisdom. I love it. Lots of emojis being shared. Maybe just one more question, then we're going to open it up to Q&A with the audience.
Okay.
What does it really mean, like in your heart, to walk the path of love together? What does it
Uh-huh.
mean?
Um, yeah, I talked about breathing in and breathing out. I feel like if I want to walk the path of love, I first of all need to understand what is love, what is selfless love, and what is the difference between that and all the, you know, motivated ways that I might live my life. So this idea of breathing in and breathing out, I kind of, in my heart, I kind of see it like dolphins. Dolphins, they're such joyful creatures, and they're jumping up, and we're so thrilled when we see them, but then they dive down deep to get to the deep places and be nourished and be fortified, and then they jump up to share. So I think that's real community. So I think that reciprocation is essential. Actually, once Srila Prabhupada said to my dear god sister Yamuna Devi, he said, if you don't share the knowledge that you have, you will lose it like a bucket with a hole in it. So we all have to be really careful to nourish ourselves, fortify ourselves. What is love, and how can I today act in love, live in love, and then share that with the world? I think, that's a little venture of an answer.
That's beautiful. We need to get this out to so many more people. And we're just so happy to have you here. I'm gonna put the link in the chat again, and we'll have it under the replay. Stay connected with Rukmini. This is a woman, a leader who's been living it, teaching it, breathing it, sharing it. Um, Being a student still. We were on retreat as students a few months ago in India, and just so grateful for you. But we'll take some audience Q&A. There was a hand up, and it went back down. So if someone has a hand up, or I always like just calling on people also, we can do that. Let's check. Because you mentioned the name a couple times, can we bring on Manjuali?
Oh,
A reflection, a reflection. All right, wait.
she'd rather be out in her garden.
It's so beautiful. You were with us last year at Bhakti Yoga Conference. It's such an honor to see you again. Welcome back.
Thank you, Jack, and my dear god sister, Rukmini. I just came out of the garden. I've got mud in my fingers. But I just came to actually honor you and how I just wanted to say that it was so wonderful how you wove together the divine feminine. That is, they say in India, there's in Vrindavan, there's only one Purusha, Krishna, and we're all Prakriti, which means that we all have that feminine to Krishna's masculine. And I really, really loved what you said about essence as well. because at the core of presence is essence. And so we show up with our presence and our humility and our gratitude, but we have to be like the bumblebee going for the nectar. And I think you really shared that in such a beautiful way today, that actually our bhakti is relational. And we're in relationship with each other, and because everyone has a spark of divinity, and we're in relationship with the nature kingdom, you know, and we're in relationship with the divine. That is, the hand of God is everywhere, and that is such a joy to know that Krishna's portable in the name, and you told us about the name. You know, the little holy name is divinity. He's on the altar, and his presence is throughout all faith traditions and none. And that is actually the broad church bhakti path.
Beautiful.
That is inclusive and present with humility. It's it's not just about me and my organization. It's about the path of love. Because Bhakti, and you said it's so beautiful. So I just want to say the path of love is the path of presence, is the path of action, action in the service of divinity. And that's kind of cool, isn't it? And you did it.
Wasn't that just such destiny that you would call on Manjuali?
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
that was the highlight of the whole hour. Excuse me, but it was.
The love that the two of you share for
No,
each other is so beautiful.
yeah, we shared a house, and we have a long relationship. And
And
our boys used to bath in the same tub.
our
when they were
boys shared a
3 and
bathtub.
4. And they're
Amazing.
mine is 50, yours is so anyway, but it's
49.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much,
okay.
Manjuwali, for sharing your love and your heart. Let us send our and where are you calling in from? Where's your garden?
Glastonbury, UK.
UK. Okay. Well, we are sending our love, gratitude to
Thank you.
Glastonbury.
And thank you. Well, that was sprung on. Much love, Rukmini. Thank
Much
you,
love.
Jack.
Thank you for bringing your beautiful presence and the light of the garden and the dirt of the earth, Mother Earth.
Yes. I get to call another a yogi, a dear friend here, Amy Pruitt. She's a longtime member of our yoga community. This is a woman who is a leader, who's out there making a difference in every way. But just reflections from you, Amy, questions for Rukmini. What is on your heart? Oh, we don't have sound somehow. You're off mute, but it's one of those things sometimes where.
Oh,
Now we got you.
you're back?
You're. Oh no, that was you, Rukmini. No,
Is this?
Oh, now you're back. Now you're back. Good.
we hear you now.
Happy to hear your voice.
Change my microphone when I go between home office and work office.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for being here, Rukmini. It was a pleasure to hear you. This is one of the first calls I've had the opportunity to jump on in this Bhakti conference. But I've been, as happy as Jack said, I've been with the community for many years, and I'm a lawyer myself, and I practice in Charlotte, Virginia, intellectual property and helping with trademark and copyright. And I've been part of this movement in the law to help more well-being for lawyers, because it's a very stressful industry, as you can imagine. And I loved everything that you had to say about just respecting and honoring the feminine within. And I have a unique, I guess, family life and relationship where my husband is the one that stays home with the kids. And it's very, I mean, he's a retired military, so he's very task oriented and would love to go back to work, but has had a lot of health issues. But it's been such a a joy to have somebody at home with the kids. And it's different than, the traditional family life where the woman was expected to stay at home and raise the kids and be more nurturing. And I am very nurturing, but at the same time, I value having a work life. And my career has been very important to me since I went to law school. And I guess I don't really have any questions other than there's just such conflict especially in North America and the way that we design our work system, because it's very driven by, as Jack said, very performance oriented, like achievement oriented, which is good for me because I've done well in school and enjoy achievement. But at the same time, it's hard to prevent this burnout, especially with women, because women in the workforce are so burnout with doing all the things to succeed in the work environment, but also doing the things that were traditionally expected of them as the nurturer, as the provider for the children, to help them grow and to provide that more maternal aspect. And I do feel that myself. It's wonderful that I have a husband to help me, and he's very nurturing as well. But there is that kind of deep feminine need to support the family and the community. So I appreciate your perspective on how to balance that. It's a constant journey for me to balance those needs and those internal I think differences. There really are differences between feminine and masculine. Although there is a feminine side to all masculine. I think even physically they start feminine because it's not till later that the Y chromosome is kind of developed. So I just appreciate your perspective on that and how to balance everything.
Thank you so much. The first question I have for you is, will you join us and lead us in an Urban Devi session? We'd love to have you come.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you. I'm so honored to be asked.
Because
I just signed up. I went on your website as soon as you mentioned it and signed up for the next thing on the 29th or whatever it is.
Beautiful. So I'll get your contact from Jack, and we would love to have you lead us. I mean, isn't it a beautiful thing that they're women lawyers with a heart? I mean, so many lawyer jokes about how they're such sharks and everything, but to think of women lawyers who are representing clients from the heart space, with compassion. And yeah, it's so true. Often women who work, they go home and they have another full-time job once they get home, even if they have the most supportive husbands. So, when you go home and you can cuddle your little ones, even, I don't know if they're big or little, but just cuddle them and remember that your time with them is the most precious gift. And
little and big, and I cuddle them all.
Yeah, just cuddle them and love them up because, the dishes can wait and the laundry can wait. And, maybe you're exhausted and you've been in the courtroom fighting other sharks all day long, but you can just sit down and fall down on a couch and giggle and cuddle and just love them up because your time is the most precious thing in the world. And that's something that you can never get back.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what, as a parent and somebody who works, is just affects me the most. I get very emotional about it because I do have an older family, my older kids with my ex-husband. And then I have a younger family. My youngest are 7-year-old twins, about to be 8. And having diagnosed them well, we've been to some of the retreats together. But it's very hard to think about past time. It's hard not to reflect on the past time that's been lost.
And it's so
getting caught up in everything.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to me that you mentioned the differences, because before all of you logged on, Jack and I were just talking about honoring the differences in a relationship. So often we come together because we see, we have so much in common, but then we fail to recognize the differences and honor the differences and how we think differently and how everyone is not the same as me, and how I can so much honor the different way that person is thinking and walking the world. So how important is that? I really honor you. Thank you so much for what you do in the world and for what you do at home. And I'm sure your children feel very loved and hugged and cherished.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your words. Thank you for calling on me. Happy Jack.
Beautiful. Love it. Well, let's send our love, gratitude to Amy From Virginia. Virginia is for lovers, as we know.
Yes.
Such a beautiful question, and thank you for being an example, and love to make this connection. Rukmini, in the essence of time, in this, would you leave us with parting words? What would you leave us with as these women, these beautiful souls, these divine beings, as we walk forward on the path of bhakti?
Yeah, I would say that, if you yourself are maybe feeling a little isolated and maybe disconnected, maybe try to find in your own sphere, in your own community, maybe I think the idea of a like-minded friend is very, very important, because even in a worldwide community, there may be people that think very differently from the way you think. So I guess my parting thought would be, try to make a little group of like-minded, even if it's just one. Another thing that Srila Prabhupada told you, Muna Devi, he said, community can be 2 or it can be 200, which is very, very wise. So yeah, in a big community, maybe there are people that drive you crazy. Maybe you don't think the same way they think. Find 1 or 2 or maybe 3 like-minded friends, get together with them, share something, read a page, each read a page from some book, maybe Bhagavad Gita, something that inspires you, and then reflect back on what you read, and then have the next person take a turn, and make a time like that. I know my friend Nartaki Radha, who's on this Zoom, she's doing that in Salt Lake City. So that's very transformative, because sometimes we think, well, I don't have many friends. You don't need many friends. You just need 1 or 2 like-minded people in your life that you can really find the essence of who they are, and reveal the essence of who you are in exchange. So that would be one parting thought that would occur to me.
So beautiful. Thank you for your presence, for your authenticity, your sincerity, for your leadership, your example. Just such an honor to have you, and thank everybody for being here with us today. This would be a good one to go back and rewatch and just really soak in, because it was just so intentional what you offered to us today, and it's just such a blessing.
I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and I'm so grateful that you're putting this out to the world online on Zoom. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Bhakti Yoga to the world. Wow. Thank you so much, Jack.
We're following in footsteps like you, dear Rukmini, but thank you so much. Wishing everybody an amazing rest of the day, weekend. We're back next week. Schedule's packed. So rest up, energize, get fresh air, and we'll see you again next week. But thank you again, Rukmini. Wishing you an amazing rest of the day.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.